Welcome back to Healthy Christian Living with Ruth and Casey. Today we are going to share with you all of our secrets about how to lose weight without being on a diet. And the keys are
portion control and moderation,
also known as self-control. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. Today we want to share with you the actual portion sizes that we have used to lose weight, the same portion sizes that have helped hundreds and hundreds of women lose weight without being on a diet. And really, we often talk about freedom with food. We hear lots about freedom with food, and learning how to lose weight without being on a diet is kind of what freedom with food is all about.
Yeah, and so many people talk about freedom with food that they don't actually know what freedom with food really means.
Because I just want to say, so many people think that freedom with food means like a free-for-all where you can eat as much of everything as you want, anytime, in any quantity, and it doesn't matter. And that, my friend, is not freedom with food. That is actually kind of the opposite. That's being in chains to food, right? Because you're so obsessed about it.
And the Bible speaks directly against that, because the Bible talks about being disciplined and about doing everything in moderation. It talks about having the fruits of the Spirit, and we want to grow and develop our fruit of the Spirit. And one of them is self-control. So how does free-for-all and self-control go together? They don't.
They don't. So our kind of favorite definition or way to explain freedom with food is when food is not in control of you. When you can decide, like if you're sitting here looking at a cake, if you can be in control of the decision of whether you say yes or no, that is freedom with food. Because if you're choosing right in that moment to say, no, thank you, then you're not being controlled by that cake. If you are choosing, the key word there being choosing to say, yes, today I am going to have some cake.
In moderation,
without those all-consuming thoughts and obsessive thoughts about the cake, then that's freedom with food.
Right. If you're at a party and you realize that you've made the decision beforehand that you're not going to have the dessert today, so you try and remove yourself away from the proximity of the food, and all you can do is keep looking back at the food table and see the cake, and your mind is constantly obsessing about, oh, I wish I could have that cake. I want that cake. I can't have that cake. I need to have some cake. No, you said you weren't going to.
Yeah, I'm not having the cake. I'm not having the cake.
That is not freedom with food.
No. And really, the other way that we like to explain it is that so many of us, in fact, I'm going to say like all of us at some level, have a mixed up relationship with food. And that is where we don't have freedom with food, because food has become in an unhealthy position in our lives. Food has become comfort. Food's become our friend. Food has become our safety. It's become our happiness. It's become our joy. It's become our
rewards. It's everything.
Everything. And that's not a healthy relationship with food.
So we have all these mixed up wires in our brains. We call them crossed wires, and we need to learn to uncross them so that we actually truly do have freedom with food.
So go ahead and tell us in the comments section what freedom with food means to you, and if you have freedom with food, or if you're struggling with it, because most of us are struggling with that. And that really is why we talk about on this channel how the biggest part about the whole journey is surrendering it to God.
That's right. We have to invite God into the journey every day, and sometimes it's multiple times a day, so that we're not obsessing and being on that hamster wheel of these obsessive thoughts, ruminating thoughts just about food.
And we've been working for the last, I don't even know how many years, with WeighDown Lifestyle. It's 3 years that we've been working with women, and specifically women of faith. And we just know how much this information needs to get out there. And so we just are here today asking a favor of you, that you would like this video, that you would comment below, and ultimately that you would subscribe to our channel, because we believe that this is our mission.
And the message needs to get out there.
Yeah. And so that if you are willing to subscribe to our channel and watch our videos, that helps us in a pretty easy for you kind of way.
And we're really praying it helps you too, because you want to have freedom with food. And Casey and I are going to be continuing to share videos about how we lost weight without being on a diet, how we learned to have freedom with food, and how portion control and moderation are key. And we want to talk about that today. So why don't we dive into portion control and moderation? But thank you so much in advance for subscribing to this channel.
Exactly. And I just want to add to that too. You know, the whole concept of freedom with food, the reason that we're talking about that is because portion control and moderation allows us to have freedom with food, where we're going, you know, I don't have to eliminate food groups. It's all about learning how to lose weight without being on a diet, without saying, I'm never going to eat bread again, because we don't want to live like that.
No,
we want to...
That's where the ruminating and the obsessive thoughts come in, because as soon as we say, I can never have bread, all we do is think about the bread, just like being at the party and we see the cake and we say we can't have it, and then that's all we think about. Mm-hmm. We don't want to have a life of dread like that.
No.
And God wants us to surrender those thoughts.
We don't want a life of dread and drudgery. We want to enjoy what we eat. And, you know, again, if we look at the Bible, and we often say the Bible is like our blueprint for best living, well, there's a lot of stories and talk about food in the Bible, and it never says that they dreaded their meal.
In fact, they enjoyed the fellowship a lot,
Yeah.
and they enjoyed the tasty, delicious food, because God has given us delicious, tasty food to enjoy.
But I want to say, this is a complicated topic. And if you've been listening thus far, you can tell it's complicated. There's layers. And, you know, we've heard it said before that gluttony is the devil's favorite sin. Mm-hmm. Because
it's a taboo subject in our culture today, and everything and everywhere we go, it's bigger is better, mm-hmm. more is better, supersize this, you know, enlarge this, get the bigger size of this.
Well, and also I think because there's not a definitive line in the sand about when we've crossed the line into like gluttonous behavior, mm-hmm. and when we're fine. Right? And that line is going to look different for me and for you and for you. And so it's one of those sins that's very hard to like actually recognize when we are doing it.
And it's very personal.
Yeah.
We know in ourselves when we've had enough. Mm-hmm. What we are forgetting to do is to listen to our body and to actually listen to when we've had enough.
Yeah. Exactly. And listening to our bodies is like, I think we need to do a whole other video about that, because, oh my goodness, we've forgotten how to listen to our bodies. And I just want to say, be a detective of your own body. Figure out what your body is telling you.
Exactly. And so for the next week, think about that. Be a detective. What are you putting into your body, and what is your body telling you about what you're consuming? Mm-hmm. Does it like it or does it not like it?
Exactly. So all that said, let's talk about the actual portion sizes. We're going to give you the quantities that we use to lose weight. And we also just want to tell you that there's two other things that you really need to learn how to monitor on a weight loss journey when you're losing weight without being on a diet. And that is how much sugar you are consuming, and learning a little bit, like the very basics about the glycemic index. So our bodies can handle between 25 and 30 grams of sugar per day. That's kind of like what science is telling us our bodies are designed to handle.
Yeah. And so you might think, oh, that's not bad. But really, that's very little sugar in a day.
Because that includes things like fruit.
That's right. And so like a small apple is like 10 grams of sugar. And so if we're having between 25 and 30 grams of sugar per day, you've just had a third of it. Now, you might go to Starbucks and you might love their chai tea latte. And a chai tea latte, like we just looked it up. What was it?
A grande is 42 grams of sugar.
What? That's past your limit in
one drink.
And that doesn't account for anything else you've decided to have for the day.
No.
Or like fruit or
all of the hidden sugars that you don't even know you're consuming that exist in like all of the foods that you would be going like, are you kidding me? There's sugar in that? Like tomato sauce.
That's right. If you eat ketchup at all, you better look at the sugar content, because that's through the roof.
Or don't, and just stop eating ketchup that has all that sugar.
That's
because
right.
You can find much healthier alternatives that have way less sugar. So,
I'm just going to say one more thing. Most people in today's world love pop.
Yeah.
Soda. It's just filled with sugar, not to mention all the chemicals and other crap that's in it. But like sugar, what did we look at?
Yeah, I think a can of Coke is like around 33 grams of sugar. I think we have it written. Yeah, 35 grams in a can.
Yeah.
And cans are small. A lot of people are drinking like the 500 ml bottles, or multiple cans per day, or a 2-liter can bottle per day, right? Like a can is not very much.
Yeah, so we have to start becoming aware of how much sugar we're taking into our body. Now, that has nothing to do with the glycemic index, because let's just talk about bread for a minute here.
Mm-hmm. Well, before you do, can you explain what the glycemic index is?
Yeah, the glycemic index is just a value. It's a number, and it goes from 0 to 100. And the higher the value, the higher the number, the quicker the food that you consume turns into sugar in your body. Basically, that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So there's low, medium, and high glycemic value placed on food. Now, you want to be consuming and eating foods that are medium or lower
mm-hmm.
on the glycemic index, because that keeps your sugar level balanced out. When we're constantly on this sugar high, where food turns into sugar in our body and our body is always on this sugar kick, well, it's really, really the first sign of wanting to become a diabetic, because our insulin has to spike, or our sugar levels spike, and our insulin has to kick in all the time. And soon we get insulin resistance. And we're not going to go into all of that, but just really think and do some research for yourself.
Be a detective.
Yes, to find out what the value of certain foods are on the glycemic index. Now, just for interest's sake, white bread, even whole wheat bread, is very high on the glycemic index. Like, it's in the high range. Now, it's higher, this is mind-boggling, it's higher than white sugar. Now, that is mind-boggling.
That is mind-boggling. So that bread turns to sugar in your body faster than the sugar creates that sugar spike in your body. That's nuts.
That will tell you that there is something wrong with what we're eating today and what we're consuming.
Well, and the other thing that can tell you what's wrong, or that there are some things wrong with all of the processed junk that we're consuming today, is that the glycemic index was developed from 0 to 100, and there are plenty of foods that exist off the charts that are over 100. And so they've had to modify the fact that this scale exists from 0 to 100, but now we have foods that exist outside of those boundaries. So that will tell you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to mention one, and it's high fructose corn syrup. When you start to read the labels and you see high fructose corn syrup, put it back on the shelf. Run away from it. Yeah, because,
don't walk, run.
Even calories aren't calories anymore. If it has high fructose corn syrup in it, it's like 1.75 or 1.8 calories to an actual calorie. So it's just off the chart. It's double.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so if you think about all of the processed foods that you might be consuming
without recognizing what you're consuming,
that have so many added chemicals. So first of all, we process the food and that takes all the nutrients out of it. Then we add in all the chemicals and preservatives. So we've taken all the good stuff out, and then we've added in a whole bunch of bad stuff
that harms your body.
So yikes. We have got to start monitoring how much sugar we're consuming and looking at the glycemic index value of foods that we are eating, because we want that constant stream of energy, not the
That's right, and that's what we call fueling your body well with good nutritious foods that God created for our bodies to use and to nourish our bodies, so we have the energy to do what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
that's enough about that, because that's a whole nother video.
Yes, exactly. So if you're here watching and you're going I want to lose weight, but I don't want to be on a diet, how do I do it? We want to invite you to come check out our WeighDown Lifestyle community. It's a membership community where we work together on learning how to treat our bodies like a temple, not a trash can, by implementing these principles and by unraveling that complex relationship with food that so many of us have. And it really is just an amazing community of faith-based women where we work together at having a healthy relationship with foods so that we can have health in our bodies.
Yeah, so we want to just invite you to come and join us. Uncross those wires, learn to find freedom with food, and if you're looking for a done-for-you plan, we also have that, where you don't have to think about this. It's already done for you. So you can comment below, let us know if you're interested in that, and we'll get back to you for sure.
And the link will also be in the description. Yeah. With portion size, we want to make sure that we also include water, okay? Drinking your water is crucial. It's very important when you're trying to lose weight. So make sure that you are drinking enough water. the standard is that you divide your body weight by 2 and drink that much water in ounces.
So a good example is if you weigh 200 pounds divided by 2, which is 100, you should be drinking at least 100 ounces of water per day. Now, that might be overwhelming to you, so you need to start where you're at. We always say start where you're at now. If you are drinking no water today, well, add in 2 today.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you're currently drinking like 5 glasses of water, well, add an extra glass and keep adding it till you're at the limit that you should be if you want to lose the weight.
Exactly. So portion sizes, we've got kind of a list. So we want to share with you the actual amounts of food that we eat while trying to lose weight. And this is things like with vegetables, we do not portion control, because when's the last time that you ate too much broccoli? Right? And vegetables are so healthy for us. And really, as we talk about like calories aren't really calories anymore, well, we don't believe in like counting calories, so to speak, because things like vegetables, we don't really have to worry about the calories in foods like that because they're providing excellent fuel for our bodies.
And not only that, your body, to digest the vegetables, actually burns a lot of calories. And so you're burning kind of what you're consuming. So you don't really have to worry about all those fresh vegetables. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the healthier vegetables. If you're eating vegetables like corn, well, we know that corn is higher in starch. So we want to be very mindful about still portion controlling those kind of vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Or potatoes, white potatoes as well is another one like that. But when we're talking about like our green veggies or like the colors of the rainbow, those types of veggies, then typically we don't worry about how much of those we're eating. In fact, we like to call them free foods because, again, when's the last time that you overate on cucumbers or peppers or
raw turnips? And you might think, oh, raw turnip? Try it. They're really actually quite tasty.
Yeah. So veggies, we do not portion control veggies. And in fact, we like to say when you go to put your plate together for a meal, the more veggies, the better. Okay? Pack that plate full of veggies before you put anything else on your plate, before you put the carbs on, before you put the protein on, before you add anything else, load it up with vegetables. And that's going to serve you really well on your weight loss journey.
Okay, so then let's talk about carbs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to go into the whole big spiel about carbs. Let's just say we like to eat sprouted grains.
Because they're lower on the glycemic index.
Yeah, and they have more nutritional value in them. So sprouted grains, and then we like sprouted pasta as well. So with bread, you can buy sprouted bread. You just have to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the portion on bread?
Well, we like the sprouted bread, and we like to say that one slice is a portion. So, if you want to have a sandwich, well, there's a couple different things you could do. You could have a sandwich that was half a bread that you or a full slice that you cut in half and use half on each side of your sandwich. The other option is that you can most often find the really thinly sliced bread. Sometimes it's called like little big bread. Sometimes it's called, I don't know, thinly sliced, whatever, where kind of 2 slices is equal to 1 regular slice. And then that could be your sandwich, right? So
yeah, and one more idea is you've all heard about lettuce wraps. You can make lettuce sandwiches and have lettuce, some filling, piece of bread, some filling, and lettuce. So it's a different kind of a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different ways to do it. So with bread, that's what we like to suggest. With other things like, and again, when we're talking about things like rice or pasta, I think you said sprouted pasta, but we actually usually find spelt flour pasta.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've ever found sprouted grain pasta.
Yeah, I meant spelt.
Anyway, spelt. So we can find a really great spelt pasta. Brown rice pasta is another great option. Because again, like the white flour or a whole wheat pasta is pretty high on the glycemic index. So we want to start finding the lower GI options.
And then what we do is we portion control the pasta or the rice, the brown rice, but we use the brown. We don't use the white because it's way higher on the glycemic index. So be that detective. But
and
then
so
we have
our standard for that
is half a cup. Now that is not a lot.
No.
But it's all that our body needs because we're filling up on the vegetables, on the foods that, we call them free foods. They fill us up. They're very healthy. They're full of nutrition, and they're not, when we're trying to lose the weight, we have to just limit the starches.
Exactly. So that's kind of like the carbs, right? The pasta, the brown rice,
including the potatoes.
Yeah.
Potatoes are very high on the glycemic index, and so we also limit them, even though they're a vegetable. Yes, they're still higher on the glycemic index. So we have a half a cup of that as well.
And we want to just give you one more hint that sweet potatoes are actually lower on the glycemic index than white potatoes, which you would not think because they're called sweet potatoes, but they are.
And they're delicious. So that's a really healthy option.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's like the starch. Lean meats, we like to say that 4 to 6 ounces, or roughly the size of your palm of your hand, is a serving.
That's right.
Okay, so
if you're out at someone's house, you don't want to ask for a measuring cup because that's not what you do when you're invited out for dinner. But that's where you have to think and be logical and reasonable and go, okay, this is about the palm. You don't have to say it out loud. You can think it. That's about the palm of my hand. And be very happy with your decision.
Exactly. It just made me think about the last time I was at a restaurant and you can order like a 12-ounce steak. You do not need 12 ounces of steak in one meal. You could take that home as 2 extra meals plus enjoy your meal at the restaurant.
That's right.
So that's the kind of standard we like to go by for meats. Things like nuts and seeds is roughly a 1/4 cup per serving.
Yeah. And that usually is about, the center of your palm.
Yeah. Or like 12 almonds. 12 to 14, I think, right? Is kind of about what that would make up. Peanut butter. We love peanut butter.
Yeah.
We don't say eliminate peanut butter. But what we do is we eat the natural peanut butter that doesn't have a whole pile of added sugar and chemicals.
So I encourage you to be a detective and go and check your peanut butter. Look at the label and see where the sugar lies on the ingredient list. If it's in the first 3 ingredients, wow, that's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the portion size for that is about 1 tablespoon. So if you think about having like a peanut butter toast for breakfast, which is a delicious breakfast. It's fast, it's easy, it's filling, all of the good things. 1 tablespoon on 1 piece of bread is going to be a good breakfast. And then maybe, in fact, we have one recipe that so many ladies love, and it's toast with peanut butter and banana and sprinkle a few chia seeds on top.
And you got a crunch and everything.
It's delicious.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But another, just a visual is like about the size of your thumb. That's like about a tablespoon.
Yeah. So you're not going to have like a 1/4 inch thick layer of peanut butter on your toast because that's not what you do when you're losing weight.
So remember, this is what we do when we're losing weight.
Yes.
Okay. It's a very different look or outlook when you're not losing weight. So this is for helping you lose the weight.
Exactly. Okay. Fruits. Again, very healthy, filled with fiber and vitamins and minerals, but has sugar, and we only want to have 25 to 30 grams per day. So
we say 1 or 2 fruit, depending on what else you decide to have as your sugar.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a small apple is like the size of a tennis ball. That has about 10 grams of sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, sugar we already talked about, around 25 to 30 grams. The last thing that we have kind of as like a guide for portion size is things like cheese, okay? And cheese, we want to say, is like roughly around, kind of like you said, the size of your outstretched thumb.
Another way to think about cheese is like the size of dice for those.
Yeah. So those are roughly the portion sizes that we use to lose weight. And like we said, fill up with vegetables. In fact, one of our favorite tricks is to use things like coleslaw as a filler. So lots of recipes that we use, like spaghetti. I have small kids, so spaghetti is like an easy weeknight go-to meal, right? We use the healthy spelt pasta and away we go, right? Use good tomato sauce that doesn't have a ton of sugar in it. In fact, we find some that doesn't have sugar in it.
That's right. You got to check the label.
And then I portion out my amount of noodles, of pasta, and half a cup is not very much. And then I add coleslaw on top of that and then put my sauce on top and mix it all together. And coleslaw is cabbage and carrots.
It's healthy and delicious, and it fills you up, and it looks like way more on your plate because a half a cup is not very much. You will need something else to fill you up so that you're not snacky and hungry all evening long.
Exactly.
But coleslaw will do that.
Exactly. And you can add coleslaw to so many things as that kind of a filler. And it just kind of adds an extra crunch and kind of takes on the flavor of whatever you've made.
Another thing you can do is you can make spaghetti squash, and you can add that to some pasta because spaghetti squash is low on the glycemic index as well.
Exactly.
So we always like to end by saying, treat your body like a temple,
Not a trash can.